Okay, so this is my Ficus Bonsai, and as you can see, it's a little bit overdue for a trim. So the reason I'm trimming it is to shorten the branches and to encourage more sideways lateral branches. So just check it out now. It's got a lot of branches. I'm not going to cut any branches off, but I'm just going to cut the tips to reduce the growing, maybe 2 or 3 leaves down, and we're going to defoliate it. And the best time to defoliate a fig is in Australia, January, February, where it's hot. It's the end of February now, so it's a little bit late, but as long as the temperatures at night don't fall below 18 degrees, then it should be fine. You want to keep your fig in a nice humid environment. And yeah, so yeah, pretty much just to cut the leaves off and see what we're working with. So I'm just going to use a pair of scissors that I've sterilised, just with some rubbing alcohol, and yeah, just pretty much defoliate it. So I just realised I said before it was a Ficus Bonsai. It's actually an oblequia. And this leaf here, sometimes I go through and I trim as I see shoots growing, and I might cut a leaf in half to allow light to come through to another little shoot or a little petiole that's coming through a new growing bud. So there's definitely quicker ways to do this, but I just thought go through and do it like this and tell you a little bit about this fig. I got it out of a brick wall. It's growing out of the top of a brick wall, and I pulled it out, and you probably noticed there's a hollow down below here. That's where the branch snapped. It only had 2 small roots, these roots here, a little, that kind of branched out into a few other roots. So it didn't have many roots at all, and it's come quite a long way. I've had it just over 2 years now, and yeah, these trees are pretty resilient. This is the first time I've ever really defoliated, because when I first got it from the wall, it was obviously it lost a lot of leaves due to shock before it bounced back. So you got to be careful when you get figs off walls that you don't let them rot, but you don't let them dry out. And you want to ideally do it in the summer when they're actively growing. There's no point really pulling one off the wall in winter. If you see one that you like just growing out of a wall somewhere, remember where it is and come back next year. It's probably the best idea. So as you can see, it's pretty leggy because I haven't wanted to cut it back, because I wanted it to just grow free pretty much, and I've just been cutting and tipping buds on the way, otherwise it would just be big long stems. There's a lot of branches here, but it does definitely need some work. So yeah, figs thrive in a humid environment, so you want to ideally sit them up on a dish of water to just create that humidity, like a microclimate around the tree, especially after you've cut all its branches off, or its leaves, and you've given it a trim. So you can finally have a look at the skeleton of the tree and decide what needs to be done, but this will also encourage smaller leaves and more light to come through to all the little dormant buds and the buds that are just starting to emerge. from where the leaf is. The good thing about figs is they're really easy to bonsai. You can just cut the growing tip and branches will just come out here. Like as I've done before, I've cut the growing tip off and it's reshot out into 2, 3, 8 new branches. So then you can either keep them if you want them or cut them off before they get too big to save the energy. So cut them before they start growing out, snap the growing tip off, and yeah, they're pretty easy to shape and they're pretty forgiving. And they're a beautiful tree, in my opinion, one of my favourites. I'm just going to pause it here while I finish it off and we'll decide. So you can see there's not much sap coming out. That's because I let it dry out for a few days before trimming it. So as you can see, this is the skeleton of the tree without any leaves, some buttressing, and I haven't disturbed the roots. I've changed the soil a few times since I've gotten it, trimmed the roots a little bit, seen how they were going underneath there, but at this stage I think I'll just, because I'm doing such a big prune, I don't know, I have an arborist background, so I'm used to not cutting more than 20% off a tree, so I'm sure, I know figs can handle it. That's why they're good for bonsai. But give me a stand. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, you see some really long ones. This is the tip. I actually have cut these off before, and just I want this to be the main leader, and this is going to be like the top of the tree, and this is kind of the lower canopies. This is like the higher canopy. So I'm just going to look at it and like definitely shorten ones like this. Probably shorten it all the way back to this node here, because this node's actually going out that way, so that kind of fills the gap there. This one's got some good structure on it, petiole there, growing bud. Same with this one. I don't think I'll cut that. This one, cut that one, and that one back a little bit. And so yeah, that's where I snapped it off, and I put a rock there, so that was never really covered in soil. It always had a bit of airflow in there because I didn't want the main thing to rot out, the trunk. So yeah, I'm just going to go through, and if I don't cut all the tips, it's actually going to keep, then that branch will start becoming a leader, which is you don't really want. I've actually got smaller scissors. I might just get the smaller scissors for this. But yeah, I'm pretty much just going to go through, shorten it back, and yeah, clean the leaves off, give it a water, cut this off, put it back outside, and we'll wait for the new branches to emerge and maybe do a few minor trims then, but pretty much this will be the last time I trim it until summer next year. And I know I'm doing a bit late this year, but I think it can handle it. So yeah. That's it. Some people might think it's a bit too straggly, but I intend on this being a big, kind of growing it a bit bigger, getting a bigger pot for it, a bit shallower. Anyway, yeah, just get some smaller scissors so I can get into the spots and finish up. Okay, I just go through and do little minor trims here and there. A leader might be taking off. Like over here, this leader, this wanted to be the leader, so I want this to be the leader, so I really have to trim this one back quite hard to slow it down, because it really wants to take off. And another thing to take into consideration, I'm not sure if you can see too well. Sorry, let's get this set up. Okay, so here obviously a new growth tip comes out from where each leaf was. So this is the petiole of the leaf. So you can kind of choose where you want your new branch to kind of go, you know, according to that. So I could cut it here and the next one would come up here, or I could cut it here and the next branch would come out here, which is more ideal. I don't know if you can kind of see it from how I've got this set up. It's a little bit hard to see it properly from this angle, I guess. But you get a gist, and you've got your own. If you've got your own bonsai, it's going to be different anyway. But just, yeah, just cut it so you can cut it accordingly. So that's a little tip. If you didn't already know. So this one I probably want to cut down so you can see kind of in. That one I might even take off in time, but for the moment I'll just cut it back here. I don't know, maybe I'm not being as vigorous as I should be with it. And sometimes you have to make sure you cut right down in there just to ensure that it doesn't keep growing. Because if you just cut it in half like this, then that's a way to slow it down as well. But then you're going to get, this is the sheath, leaf sheath, but then you're going to get half a leaf come out, and you're going to get another half a leaf coming out from that, because you've cut it in half. So you want to make sure you've really cut it where you want it to, and cleanly. Sharp scissors is a must. You don't want to be bruising it. But as I said, figs are pretty hardy little trees, so they can take a bit of chopping. So what I did before I cut this, I dried it out. Let's see. So I didn't water it for a few days, and I've just top dressed the soil. Probably should have done that after I cut it, but just put a little bit of fertilizer in there, slow release fertilizer, and once I finish this, give it a water and just make sure it's not in too bright of a position. It's got its spot out of the garden. I can show you later. It gets morning sun, afternoon sun, midday in shade, so it's a pretty good protected position for it. Probably not as much sun as it needs, so I might have to move it, but for now, since I'm cutting, and I think this spot will be alright until I my garden gets a bit more protected. And another good thing about cutting this off is and keeping your plants outside, you've got to be careful of scale. So cutting all the leaves off, you can address any issues with bugs. So yeah, but I've got some spray now, and we're going to assess any scale issues, but as you can see, there's not much on here. Had a bit of a look, I think it was just those two. So yeah, good to do this. Maybe, well, maybe you meant to do it once a year, but you could probably do it every 2 years, defoliating it. You can still cut the branches off. It is back in the garden. Sorry about the lighting, it's not the best. Just got it on the log here. You can see I've just put some wire on it. I'm twisting these branches together, so I've twisted this one here all the way around the back side of it. So that one's growing over, down and out to thicken the branches and also give them a bit of texture when they're older, because it is pretty leggy, but I like that about it. It's got its own character. So yeah, that's it. I'm just going to put a little bit of hormone powder on that cut on the root, which I also just did, and I've cut all the petioles off, and that's it. So that's how I do it. So yeah, as you can see, there's a bit of a stump here, and I've just twisted one of these branches have come like epicormic since, so new shoots have just shot out since I cut that last one off, and I thought, well, why don't I twist them around here to give it a bit of structure. And yeah, so I'm not the best at wiring. This is the second time I've put wire on it, and yeah, you pretty much just want to make sure you don't snap any branches. So that's kind of how I do it. Much appreciated. So I'll keep you updated on the regrowth of it and trimming in future. Cheers. Bye.